Are you on your way to the pictures, David?
Yeah.
We're now live, Chair.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the virtual Letchworth committee meeting that's being conducted with members and officers at various locations, communicating via audio and video online. There is also the opportunity for the public and press to listen and view proceedings. Before the meeting starts, I would like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to explain how proceedings will work and confirm that members, officers and registered speakers are in attendance. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Chair. I'll firstly undertake the roll call. When I call your name, please can you indicate your attendance to confirm that the required members, officers and speakers are present, can hear and be heard. Members, we have apologies from Councillor Gary Grindle, Councillor Helen Oliver.
Present.
Councillor Danielle Allen.
Present.
Councillor Kate Aspen-Wall, I think she's on her way in. Councillor Morgan Derbyshire.
Present.
Councillor Terry Hone.
Present.
Councillor David Levitt.
Present.
Councillor Ian Mantle.
Present.
Councillor Sean Prendergast.
Present.
Councillor Sue Nguala. She's currently absent. Councillor Mike Rice.
Present.
And Councillor Adam Ruggiero Chaka.
Present.
Thank you. And officers, we have Lee Ellis.
Present.
And Matthew Hepburn.
Present.
And speakers today we have Ray Wilson.
Present.
Ord Mongiati.
Present.
Reverend Trevor Sharp.
Present.
We were expecting Carver Johnson. She's not here yet. Claire Lunnan.
Present.
And Alistair Stewart. Not here yet. Okay. Extracts from the remote and partly remote meetings protocol are included with the agenda, and the full version is available on the Council's website, which includes information regarding live streaming, noise interference, rules of debate, voting and Part 2 items. Members are requested to ensure they're familiar with the protocol. Does anyone have any questions before we start the meeting? Thank you. In that case, I'll hand over to the Chair, Councillor Helen Oliver. Thank you. You're on mute, Helen.
Yeah, my computer just told me, sorry. So as Anna said, we've had apologies for absence from Councillor Gary Grindle, who isn't very well, and I'm sure the meeting would like to join me in sending him our very best wishes. Are there any other apologies? Okay, thank you. There's been no notifications of any other business. Welcome to those of you who are joining and part of public participation. We're very pleased to have you with us this evening. In accordance with Council policy, this meeting is being audio recorded as well as filmed. The audio recordings will be available on mod.gov and the film recording via the NHDC YouTube channel. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under Chair's announcements on the agenda. So first, we're going to take public participation. We have a number of speakers this evening, including 2 grant applications. Ray Wilson from Greenacre at Norton, Ord Mongiati, Letchworth Rink Hockey Club, Reverend Trevor Sharp, Vicar of St George and St Nicholas, Norton Parish, Carver Johnson, Letchworth African Caribbean Community. We've also now had confirmation that Alistair Stewart will be joining us from Letchworth Garden City Heritage Foundation, and Claire Lunnan from the Garden House Hospice. First, we're going to take the 2 grant applications, and then we'll take a vote on the grants after that, and we'll hear from the remaining public speakers. Lee, can I ask you to announce the grant applicants, please?
Hi there. We're going to start with Ray Wilson, who's representing Green Care at Norton Horticultural and Support Project, who we've met before, so I shall let him say his bit. Go for it.
Thank you. Yes, I can go. Right. Nice to see you all again. First thing I want to say, and I know I've only got 5 minutes, but I really want to say a massive thank you to the elected members. The support that you've given to Green Care at Norton is absolutely outstanding. We've just completed quite a major piece of work, which makes one of the plots accessible for people with with mobility issues, and it's a fully accessible plot. Quite a lot of doing, but if you were to see it, you have helped me enormously to create a very, very good project. Like everything else, COVID has disrupted things enormously. We're currently working with 10 adults with various needs, various ages. But one thing that we're truly struggling with is a toilet facility. So for anyone who knows Norton Allotments, it's a very big site, but it's not particularly near anywhere, and there is no toilet facility at all on site or near. That has led to a number of problems with some of our participants who basically have trouble doing the full session without having need of a toilet for one reason or another. Building a huge proper toilet block is way out of the question and would need all sorts. So we came up with the suggestion that we would have basically a quality shed, kit it out inside and kit it out with a modern, good quality chemical toilet, which these days are much, much better than you would imagine, basically for people, who would need it. So that's basically what I'm asking for, is some assistance with the cost of putting up this toilet and kitting it out. I must say that it has been something that since we started keeps cropping up as a bit of a theme. And we have, participants with certain medical conditions. We have, participants who are quite elderly. So I think this would be a very, very important piece of the jigsaw. So I'm asking for, again, for a little sum of money from yourselves to help the project along. It has been mentioned about a composting toilet with full disability access. Problem with that is it's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. It's close on £3,000 for something like that, which is a lot of money. But I think we could get by, certainly get by with a fairly humble provision, and then to the future we could look for something a bit more luxurious, let's say. So that's basically what I'm asking for. I think, sorry, I haven't got the numbers in front of me. I think I'm asking for £380. £400, Lee tells me. Sorry, I'm asking for I'm sorry, for those who don't know, we just have a new baby who's 3 weeks old today, and my brain is well and truly addled at the moment. So apologies for not having that number to hand. But so that's about all, really. The project, just if I've got a minute or so, where we'd like to go in the future, and the last time I spoke to you, I wanted to go for an accessibility project. We've done that. Where I'd like to go now, I've discussed this with the job centre and yourself, well, Lee, is trying to put in a social enterprise dimension to it. So everybody who I work with is long-term unemployed, as well as suffering from loneliness and other issues. And originally we were part of before COVID, we were part of a much bigger initiative in Letchworth to help people back into employment. So my bit was to get them out of the house and get them doing something worthwhile, useful, something therapeutic. That's all great. Where I'd like to go in the future is to make that into a bit of a social enterprise, so people are getting to know the skills around earning money from a sort of self-employed point of view. That must be my 5 minutes.
I think you've used it very well, Ray. You gave us a lot of information. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask members of the committee now if they've got any questions. Oh, Councillor Levitt, your hand went up at the speed of light.
Oh,
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, Ray.
hello.
You were talking about this composting toilet, and there's a mention in the report the possibility of awarding funding for that at this point. Being realistic, how far in the future are you looking at being in a position to do this? And is it something that the funding, the promise of the funding would help now, or is it something that you'd prefer to hang on to and get the costings and everything done first?
I'll be honest with you, I need a temporary solution sort of now, fairly quickly, and that is a cheap solution. I am looking at other funding streams, and I'm looking at some ideas for income generation for this coming year. Yeah, I think it's one for a little way down the road.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to lose sight of it, because having gone to the trouble and expense, or your expense, of making one of the plots accessible to people with disabilities, a toilet which was also accessible would be really good. But yeah, I think possibly it's one for a little further down the line, and I do know it's expensive, and I do know I've already had a lot of money from yourself.
Okay, thanks for that, Ray. Cheers.
Very full answer, thank you. And next I have Councillor Daniel Allen.
Hello. I'd just like to say what a brilliant project it is. I have actually been over and had a look at it, and you've done such good work. Just quickly, as far as revenue funding goes, please do approach the Letchworth Civic Trust. There's 3 of us here that are on the trust, and this is the kind of thing that would be quite suitable. And also I would recommend speaking to a couple of the Masonic lodges in Letchworth over at Cloisters. They've recently, 2 of the lodges have done sponsor a toilet, and they've twinned their toilets. So that might be something else to have a look at.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think that's, no, I don't have any hands raised now. I'm just making sure I can't see you all at once. No, that's fine. Thank you very much, Ray. We will be making a decision on your application. I know you've done this before, but to remind you, this evening, and it shouldn't be very long. So you're very welcome to stay and wait for our decision, but you absolutely don't have to.
Thank you. I'll get back to
Yeah, absolutely. Or even just have a rest, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Lack of sleep does affect the memory, right?
Sorry?
I said lack of sleep does affect the memory.
Oh God, yes. I can barely string
a lot
a
of us have
sentence
been there.
together.
Thank you very much, Ray. Okay, so next we're going to be listening to our next grant applicant. Again, Lee, I'm going to hand over to you to introduce them.
Well, I'm very pleased to introduce Aude Mongiati from the Letchworth Rink Roller Hockey Club. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Aude. Please tell us about what you're here for tonight. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Good evening, all, and thank you for considering our application. I'm here on behalf of the Letchworth Rink Hockey Club. And I will definitely echo Ray Wilson in that the current crisis has hit us like many other organizations. We are a club, a sports club, who really invest time and energy and the resources, the small resources we have, into our junior players. And in the past years, the club has had a good record of having junior members from under 9 to under 17 on the top of their leagues in terms of the championships and being selected for the national team. So there's a definite good results and representation of Letchworth in the league. So the reason I'm here today is to ask for financial support, as you've seen from our grant application, to help with 2 separate activities which we would like to provide our junior players with, and which we will struggle with funding in the current year in the near future, because some of our income generation or fundraising, I should say fundraising opportunities we've lost all of them during the 2020 season. We generally have good opportunities in home tournaments. We also help people packing bags at tills around Christmas. That's not going to happen. So some of our streams for fundraising, a lot of them have not happened this year. So and our financial projections do not look good at all. We're definitely lose money. So those sort of, I would say, extra but very crucial activities for the benefit of our junior players would be absolutely fantastic. So those activities would be first, training new coaches. I mean, the new COVID restrictions and guidelines is trying not to mix too many people at once, and we are an indoor sport, so that's one of the limitations. Having more coaches for our junior teams would be great. So the national head coach has offered to train some of our members who have already volunteered to follow that training to become coaches at level 1 and 2 for training our junior members. And of course, he has a cost, and we need to pay a fee for that. And that would basically strengthen the small community that we are, but it would really reinforce the community side of thing of the club. Involving parents, make them understand it better, make them involved in the club better, and also advertise the club better outside. So it would be of great benefit. And the second activity would be another service provided by our national head coach, which would be a monthly training session, which would be a more intensive program of training for the kids, and God knows they need that with the fact that they haven't been able to play for 6 months, and now another month very recently where everything had to come to a stop again. It's been heartbreaking because they were so happy to be back in September and October, and we had put everything in place for them to be able to thrive again. So we've got sessions on a Thursday and on a Wednesday. We've got under 9 and under 11 together, and then under 11, under 13 together, under 15 and 17 together. And so the national head coach would be able to provide a 2-hour session once a month for each of them, and it would be fantastic for their development. And I would like to add to that we have applied for a grant recently, which you kindly awarded us to help fund junior members, junior players with their fees and monthly subscription. And thanks to that grant, we've been able to help 9 junior players to be able to train. And so now we have got between, I would say, 20 and 25 under 13 players, which is quite a lot because we were really down on numbers recently. And so we went out and had leaflets in schools and things like that, and it really worked. It was a success. But now that we have those 20 to 25 junior players, it would be great to bring them to the level that the previous junior teams had, and keep the level of the players to where it was. So this is basically why we're here to ask for your support for these activities. In terms of the number, I think we're asking about £1,300, I think, hoping that we'll be able to fundraise £300 towards the whole cost of those activities. I've also looked into other funding opportunities, like from Sport England or the National Lottery Community Fund. Even I've seen something from Aviva, the Aviva Community Fund. So I'm looking into other streams, but we thought that we could try and apply, because you had been sort of really kind to us already. So I think that's it. I thank you very much for your consideration and attention, and I hope to see you maybe one day when home tournaments can start again. That, you know, an open invitation to you to come and see us at the North Herts Leisure Centre play, or at a training session. It would be lovely. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ord. That was a lot of information. Before I ask for, I've already got a raised hand. Before I come to you, Councillor Hone, I just wanted to ask, has the grant that the committee previously gave you, do you think that it's allowed some junior players who wouldn't otherwise have been able to access the sport?
Oh yes, certainly. Yes, certainly. I think the sport needs quite a lot of kit, and which can be quite expensive, and the club is really good at lending a lot of kit to start with, because, you know, it's a commitment, and if kids are not really interested in, you know, just for 2 months, and parents would have to pay for skates and a stick and knee pads and shins and you name it, it's a big expense. So the club lends in the beginning, and then people can start paying for their own kit sort of one step at a time. But even for the registration and then the monthly subscription, for the insurance, you know, with the National Association that you have to pay, there are lots of expenses. And those nine people, the criteria that we had were for awarding those grants were by, yes, the income for you know, the household income. And we know that if it hadn't been for that financial support, they wouldn't have been able to stay and train with us, for sure. So thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Hone.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Thank you all for the presentation. A suggestion might be perhaps the county councillors do have what's called a locality budget, which is there to support on that patch various charitable events and opportunities. So it might be that if you go to Herts County Council, go to a county councillor, and the one which on the leisure centre happens to be on my patch. So if you go back to Leah, she'll be able to tell you how to contact me, which you could Google anyway. Just Google Terry Hone and you'll find me at Herts County Council, and I may be able to help in some way financially. I've got to do it pretty soon, though, I have to say, because I get cut off because we've got elections coming up. So I may be able to help in some way if you come to me.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I shall do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Councillor Hone. Next we have Councillor Allen.
You say you're hoping to raise £300 through fundraising on top of the £1,350 you want from us. Just a couple of questions. You appear to have quite a lot of sponsors for the different teams. Have you approached any of them? And then the next question would be, out of the people that you want to have supported in this role, how many are actually from Letchworth?
So I'll answer the first part of your question. In terms of sponsors, I haven't been, so I am quite new to the role, I have to say, and I'm looking at trying to grant applications mostly. And a colleague of mine on the committee is looking at sponsor and sponsorship. In the sponsors have been really happy to be represented on the website and on kit and on things like that. But so far, it has been quite difficult to get a financial commitment from them somehow. And to be fair with you, I'm not entirely sure why, because I haven't been the one dealing with sponsorship. So I could go back to you on that after the meeting if you are interested, by talking to my colleague who's been dealing with it for the past years. For the second question, would you mind asking it again?
Of course. Of the number of children that you're looking to have the extra support from the national coach, how many of them are from Letchworth? So
in the team we have, I think this year 45 members, I would say, registered players, and and I think we've got about 30 or 31 junior ones. Out of them, you have, most of them are from Letchworth and from Stotfold. So basically all the players are between Stotfold, Letchworth, but most of them, I'm trying to count on top of my head. Yes, I would say about between 15 and 20 are living in Letchworth.
About half.
Yes, yeah, I would say.
Okay.
Thank you. Is your hand still up because you've got any more questions, Daniel, or is that a legacy hand?
No, I'm literally just finished speaking, so that's still up.
No, I'm just making sure that that's all the information that you needed. Okay, thank you. Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted some clarification from Lee. In the report, it said previous support was 2,500, awarded in the last financial year, but delayed because of COVID. Does that mean we haven't paid that?
No, we have paid it now, but it wasn't given straight away after the meeting where we made that decision, because that was during right at the beginning of the first lockdown. So, but it has now been paid across. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just double checking, but I don't think I've got any more hands up. So thank you very much, Ord. We're about to move to the debate and the decision making on both the grants. You're very welcome to stay, but you absolutely don't have to. So it's up to you.
I'm happy to stay if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Lee, before we move to the debate, do you have any other information that you think the committee members need before we start doing that?
Or if I may indulge the committee with just a couple of extra thoughts, just in terms of green care, they've sort of almost become a victim of their own success at the moment, which is a wonderful thing. Obviously, everything's been slowed down this year, and I understand Ray's urgent need to put a toilet in there. Having said that, I'm not sure when. There's lots of people are going to be going again, so it sort of felt like it'll be another application process for him to come back in a few months' time to go through for the proper compost toilet, or the committee could consider just having done with it and offer that funding sooner. Just a thought on that. It would still leave us quite a good amount for the March committee if all the grants were approved, and even if an increased amount was considered for green care. So, and the roller hockey club, they went above and beyond what we asked of them last time. We stipulated that they would fund young people that would otherwise not be able to access this sport. But but they took it upon themselves to actually increase the number they brought on. So they'd asked us to fund, I think, 5, but came back to me and the chair and vice chair and said, could they actually use that for twice the amount of young people, which is what they've done. So by sheer sort of serendipity, the recruitment of those 9 junior players has now created this need to fund extra training. So that's just kind of where we are at. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Lee. So as we move to the debate, have we got any raised hands? Councillor Rice, did you want to speak to this, make any suggestions?
Sorry, Chair. It's still raised from my previous question.
No problem.
Chair, sorry, I don't mean to. Sorry to interrupt, Chair. I just wanted to advise that Councillor Aspinwall did join the meeting just before the last speaker. So Councillor Aspinwall can vote on this item if she wishes.
Thank you very much. That's great. Oh, and good evening, Councillor Aspinwall. Next hand up is Councillor Levitt. You're muted, David.
Okay. Right. Thank you, Chair. Going back onto the Green Care Grant, I'm quite happy to propose the sum requested. I think from the answer that Ray gave to my question about how urgent they need funding, it seems rather pointless giving them the extra money at the moment. He doesn't seem to be in a position to be able to spend it. And I think he's looking at other options. He seemed to be suggesting we're going to look at other options and other ways around it. So I think it'd be a little bit premature of us to award that money at the moment. If there was an urgent need for it, then yeah, great. But there doesn't appear to be. So my suggestion is that my proposal is that we award the sum requested, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Levitt. There is another hand up. So before I say that you formally propose that, I'm going to ask Councillor Allen to speak.
I was going to speak on the second item, but I'm very happy to second Councillor Levitt on first.
Well, that's pleasingly organic. So on the first, if there's no other hands raised, which I don't think there are, then I've had a proposer in Councillor Levitt and a seconder in Councillor Allen for the loan for Green Care at Norton. Can I hand over to Anna, please, to conduct the vote?
Thank you, Chair. Could members please vote with the green tick for yes, red cross for no, and blue raised hand for abstain? That vote's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much, Anna. So that takes us to the debate on the second grant application from the Rink Hockey Club. Do I have any raised hands? Does anybody wish to speak to this or propose?
Yes, please,
Councillor
Chair.
Allen.
We've recently given £2,500 to the Rink Hockey Club. We've funded them before. There's so much going on at the moment, and this is such a niche sport, and we're only funding half of the people from Letchworth. I'm not sure if I would be comfortable voting to give the full amount.
Thank you very much for that. Does anyone else have anything to add? Would anyone make it? Councillor Allen, are you suggesting a particular amount that you do think it would be appropriate for the committee to award?
No, I don't have enough experience of what would and wouldn't be able to be supplied, so I can't make an informed suggestion. I just would struggle to give that amount of money to that group.
Thank you very much. Councillor Levitt, you've raised your hand.
Thank you, Chair. I have some concerns. Well, it's not about the number of people. It was actually Councillor Allen's question on the sponsorship that raised a couple of little red flags with me about that. It was the comment, whilst they're happy to have their logos and that on their shirts, etc., there's very little money forthcoming. Now, my idea of a sponsorship was you pay the money and you get the logos. and you get the shirts and that. So I'd like a little bit more information on that, I think, before I'd be happy supporting any further funding.
Would it be possible, Chair, to make a suggestion?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
May I suggest, with permission from everybody else, that we ask if we could get some more figures and facts. I don't know if Lee already has them, with sponsorship, with monies coming into the club, monies going out of the club, and then reconsider this at the next opportunity.
Yes. I'm going to put that, I completely agree with that suggestion, Councillor Allen. I'm going to suggest that perhaps we needed some information around asking, or if you could go away and perhaps bring your colleague back or give us some more information about how you've pursued sponsorship. And I feel like you had to mentally tot up in your head how many young people were from the area that this committee covers and how many were from outside. So perhaps you also might want to look at approaching similar bodies that are in the area where those other children come from, particularly if they're not in North Hertfordshire. But even if they're not, I know that Lee is very well informed and could probably signpost you in some useful directions. But I realise that only Councillor Levitt and Councillor Allen have spoken, and I've made a suggestion that I hope sort of sums up what they were querying. I'd really like to hear from, oh, and I've got a hand up. Thank you very much, Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say, in a lot of instances, sponsorship is not always money. Sponsorship is the supply of equipment, and also particularly outfits, shirts, etc. By supplying kit, they get their name on the kit. So it's not always money supplied by a sponsorship.
So, Councillor Rice, do you have a different view about what are you making a different proposal this evening, or do you think that we should ask the club to come back with some more information?
I think you're quite right, Chair, in asking the club to come back with more information. I was just saying it for the benefit of other members, having been involved with sports clubs in the past. It's not always money comes in on sponsorship. It's equipment that comes in as well.
That was very useful information. Thank you, Councillor Rice. So I'm going to ask that we ask Lee or Anna, whichever one of you would like to answer. Would we need to formally propose and second that we ask the club to come back with that extra information at the next available opportunity? Or is that something we can do less formally than that?
I don't honestly know the answer to that question. I don't know if Anna does.
Sorry, just point of order.
Sure.
Is the debate normally done in on YouTube? Because we are still live.
Yes, it is.
Cool, thank you.
I suggest we take a vote on the proposal. So if we can have
that seems to make the most sense in place of the vote on awarding a grant. Can I just make sure? Oh, Councillor Levitt, is your hand back up again?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, rather than take a vote on the proposal in front of us, which would possibly mean a refusal, I'd rather not refuse it. I'm going to make an alternative proposal, Chair, that we defer the decision on this one until the next available opportunity. If somebody would like to second me on that, that means we don't reject the grant, we keep our options open.
I did suggest that when I first
It's a little bit fluid, Councillor Levitt, but I think that is effectively what we're proposing and seconding. But that's good to know that means that quite a few of us are on the same page. So I'm going to propose that what we vote on is I'm going to propose that we don't make a decision to completely refuse the grant this evening, but that first the committee says they would need some extra information around sponsorship, the membership of the club geographically, and to hear some more information, or perhaps you could come back and let us know which bodies in those other geographical areas you've approached, and we'd like to consider this again in the future. So can I propose that pending extra, that we ask the club to come back to us to the next available committee with that extra information, and ask for a seconder on that?
So we're voting
sorry,
to
Councillor
defer.
Aspinwall's got an actual hand up.
I'm just asking a question, Chair. Are we voting to defer?
Yes, we are going to be voting to defer. Can I ask Councillor Aspinwall to, I think she might be about to make a helpful suggestion, Councillor Rice.
I just said I was happy to second that.
Thank you very much. So I would like the committee to vote on deferring a decision this evening pending extra information coming back to the next available committee. I've proposed, Councillor Aspinwall, are you happy to second that in that wording? Nodding head, thumbs up. Anna, can I hand over to you to conduct that vote?
Sure. Could members please vote on that proposition with the green tick for yes, red cross for no, and blue raise hand for abstain? That vote's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much, Anna. So, Ord, we look forward to seeing you at the next available committee that you're able to make it to. And I'm really glad that we've found a proposal to vote on that allows you to come back, because I don't think any of us wanted to just flatly decline your application.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. And I fully understand your, and I'll come back with the information. And yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
Great.
Again.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Sorry, that means that my notes are not running quite to order. Give me 1 second. Okay, now that we've had the debates and votes on both of the grant applications, we're going to be hearing from the rest of our speakers. After which, after each speaker, I'm going to open it up to questions from other members. So first, we're joined this evening by Reverend Treasure Sharp. Sorry, Treasure? No. Reverend Trevor Sharp, Vicar of St George and St Nicholas, Norton Parish Church. Thank you for being with us this evening, Trevor.
It's lovely to be able to share with you this evening, and it's just looking at how churches have been faring through this very difficult year, and in many ways we share with small businesses and all people in this town with the difficulties that's come about because of COVID. And if one thing we've realised is how much we are part of the communities which we're called to serve, not just the congregations, but the wider community that uses our facilities, haven't been able to use them as they would have done in the past. We've had it's been very upsetting doing a number of funerals in the last year, where numbers are limited, and there's many family members feel that they haven't somehow been able to give a proper send-off to their relatives and friends, and it's been very difficult for people having to cut a line through the middle of who can come and who can't, leaving some families deciding just to make it very small indeed and not invite anyone outside. So had a number of very difficult conversations with people this year around funerals. And the same with weddings as well. Every single wedding I've had this year has been cancelled. They've put it back to next year, which is interesting. They want to be able to celebrate with all their families, but at the moment, of course, they can't do so. Interesting. I had one just come out saying they're going to give up now and they're going to go ahead for January and get it done and have their celebrations later next year because they just want to get it up and running a bit. So in many ways, all those sorts of services have been really difficult for people this year to plan things and to get together. As far as church is concerned, our church was very much involved during the lockdown. We set up what we call a Love Thy Neighbour scheme, where we leafleted the entire parish, and with help not just from church volunteers, but volunteers from Letchworth Rugby Club and a few other people who were furloughed at the time. We did shopping for vulnerable people. We got chemists' prescriptions. We even were walking a couple of people whose dogs who were vulnerable and couldn't take their dogs for walks. There are all sorts of areas which you don't always necessarily see. And in line with that also, we discovered, as we were ringing around, that there's a lot of lonely people who in lockdown periods in particular don't see anybody. And so we had a whole number of people would be ringing people up through the whole lockdown periods, and that's established new relationships with people who have continued on. We've had to be live streaming service. I don't even know what live streaming was before I started all this, but I'm pretty sure I do now. It's been interesting doing that, but it's also been really important because the most vulnerable people in our communities are the ones who can't get to church at the moment. And to them, that's one of the most important parts of the week. We just started our Wednesday service today, and a number of people who come to that are in their 90s. They go because it's a smaller congregation, and they were absolutely so pleased when I rang them up this week to say we're opening up again, because it's their one time in the week that they're still willing to come out and get to meet people. And I think it's been a real eye-opener to just how many lonely people we actually have in our town. And I think as we look forward, I think one of the roles we must look at playing as a church is vulnerable people, and particularly loneliness within our communities. And that's something I'd really like to develop, because people shouldn't kind of be forgotten and left. And I don't think that was something which COVID brought about. I think it's something that always existed. But I think what COVID did is it emphasised and it brought out to us just how many people living next door, living in the same road, are extremely lonely. And I've been talking only this week to a chap whose wife died and he hasn't had anyone to talk to. There's lots of people who suddenly can find themselves lonely. So it's been a challenging time for churches. We've got a good Christmas programs up and running. Everyone's determined to be as normal as you can have in an abnormal world. So the only difference really is you have to book yourself in, and we're having to have more services to facilitate everyone. But we want to make it as much a family experience and as much a Christmas as we possibly can within the COVID guidelines. So it's been a challenging year. It's been I think it's been a year where we've learned new things about our communities. We learn about communities that do care for one another. We've come closer together. At the same time as it's also emphasised that actually our communities have people in them who are lonely as well. So I think it's been a year where churches have learned much about the communities they serve, and maybe the opportunities we have to make new contacts and make new friends as well.
Thank you very much, Reverend Sharp. Are there any, oh, sorry, I realised where we've met a few times before, I got a bit informal and called you Trevor earlier, sorry. Are there any questions from the, yes, I have a hand up from Councillor Allen.
I swear I don't talk on everyone, honestly. Reverend Sharp, I just wanted to ask, as far as churches together go, and I know that it's not your parish, do you have any information on what happened with St Michael's Church, Broadway, and what's going on with their congregation at all?
Sadly, their church is shutting down. As you know, the building was very unsafe. They couldn't afford to even do the examination that was needed to actually carry out the work. At the same time, their finances aren't in a good position as well. And although the built churches are owned by the Church of England, each parish is responsible for the maintenance of their buildings and for their own finances as well. And so sadly, they reached a bit of an impasse this year, which they weren't able to continue. And the agreement has been made now to shut St Michael's as a church and as a parish as well. And the existing 3 other parishes of St George's, St Paul's and St Thomas's will take up parts of the ground of those parishes to form just 3 parishes in the future. Those are under negotiation, just where those new lines will be drawn, but St Michael's will eventually cease to exist, sadly, in Letchworth. It's been a really, I've had a number of conversations and emails from people at St Michael's. There's one lady, she's in her 80s, she was baptised there, she was confirmed there, she was married there. And you can imagine it's like a bereavement to her, and it's like a bereavement to quite a number of them there. They really value their building, they value that parish. But they also, I think, are fully understanding of the situation that has caused those decisions to be made.
Thank you very much. I now sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I have a question from Councillor Levitt.
Thank you. Good evening, Reverend.
Hi.
You mentioned about your live streaming and your virtual your putting your stuff online, your services online. How have you found that go? Have you had good engagement there? Have you had good numbers? Have they increased, decreased?
It's interesting. Initially there was really huge numbers. They then leveled out a bit during the service. Because we're now live again, we have about 60, 70 people coming because we do go into 2 services. But we're still getting 20 or 30 live people as well. But interestingly enough, we get a lot of people who used to live in Letchworth. We get people from places like Australia as well. So I think what it's done, it's for some people, to go to church is one thing, but actually the traveling as well is too much of their day. So that if they can come in onto a live stream, which is they can sit at home, watch the service and go, they're happy to do that. So I think it's sort of opened up a new medium for us, and it's certainly one we would continue in the future, because we do have to look at all the new technologies and how we get our message out, as it were. And so I think in many ways it's been a real opportunity for us to do stuff which I certainly wouldn't have even considered in the past. And it certainly helped also some of our more elderly people, because we always think they can't do stuff on computers. But if they really need to, they can. And we've had some of our older people can't get back to church, but they're still every week. And if I know when they can't get on, because they're always ringing me angrily to say, I couldn't get on this week, can you make sure it works next week? So it's been great for elderly people at home, and it means we can keep in contact with people who, when they get that age, they can't go anymore, we can still get in contact with them. So I think it's got a lot of positives overall.
Thank you, Reverend. That's very interesting. It helps me with a little bit of research I've been doing as well. It was quite very interesting to see that. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. I don't think I have any other raised hands now, so I'm just going to say thanks again, Reverend Sharp, for coming and updating us, particularly as you brought information from across a range of churches. And I'm really glad to hear that you've been managing to keep going, taking spiritual messages to people when they've needed them, because it's been such a tough year. So yeah, thanks very much for your time.
That's no problem. Thanks very much.
So the next speaker this evening is Kava Johnson, who's with us from the Letchworth African Caribbean community. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, Kava. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Hello. Sorry, I was just trying to position myself in a little bit more of a private place. Yeah, I just come from the African Caribbean community group. We've received some funding to carry out some activities over what was Black History Month. We sort of planned for the, we decided, obviously because of events that kind of stopped us from doing a lot of our planned activities. I mean, we were able to do a plaits and braids workshop online, which was amazing. And our poetry workshop that was in partnership with Poets In, mental health charity, was so well attended and went a lot better than I think that we probably even thought it would. The engagement was from people that I suppose we didn't expect that we would engage with it. So it was a real sort of learning curve, particularly for someone who's got a community development background. It was a learning curve as to, using different tools to engage with a completely different set of people. So those went really well. And then we've got the remainder of our activities. We've decided to label Black History Month Beyond, or Beyond Black History Month, I think. So it's going to be sort of almost like a year's worth of activities. Obviously, if we do get an opportunity to do some socially distanced activities in the community, that would be fantastic. But also we've had the opportunity of being able to sort of partner with some other community associations and community groups that are now up and coming, that want to run sports and social activities for older African Caribbean people. We've made connections with groups across the North Hertfordshire. So we are really sort of finding that probably just doing some activities even online, we've found that our reach has increased vastly. So I'm hopeful for, I suppose, beyond next year to see what we'd be able to sort of achieve, but also trying to see if we can find some other streams of income, and putting together funding applications and things to draw some more funding into the organisation. Yeah, and just trying to see if we can just do more, really. I suppose that's what our aim is always, yeah, to try and do as much as possible, serve the community as best we can.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that update. Are there any questions from the committee? I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Good. I must have explained myself very well.
Undoubtedly, it's because you were very concise and helpful.
Thank you.
You very much, Kava. If you want to stay for the rest of the committee, it'd be lovely to have you. But equally, the same as Reverend Sharp, you are welcome to leave if you'd like to. But it's really nice to have you.
Thank you.
Next this evening, we were to be joined by Alistair Stewart from the Heritage Foundation, but he's been having some technical difficulties and isn't able to join us. However, he has managed to send a written update to Lee, who is going to give that to us now. Just before I do that, the other person who's having technical difficulties, who has formally sent apologies to me now, is Councillor Nguala, and I just think I needed to announce that to the meeting for it to be recorded. Lee, thanks.
Lovely, thank you, Chair. Yes, poor old Alistair Stewart. I think after, like the rest of us, a plethora of meetings on Zoom today, and I think his internet finally just said no more, no more. So very quickly, his main bullet points: the reopening of the cinema, gallery, and museum, supported with cultural recovery funding. Plan to reopen the farm as normal in February, subject to any tier implications. Stuart is leading the new culture strategy group to develop our culture and heritage strategy. Working with the bid to support Shop Local. There's continuing challenges on property income, with leisure and office sectors proving the most challenging, with commercial rent arrears rising. They are developing their new strategy and are keen to support local social action, mitigating effects of increasing poverty and unemployment whilst nurturing local enterprise. They're working in partnership with Citizens Advice and using asset-based community development to support the money advice programme they're introducing, and also within the project looking at system change, which is new to them, and they're looking forward to piloting this approach. They are also working on local service maps to support other projects that they are funding, such as the Letchworth Family Support Team, the Acorns project, and linking in with the Jackman's Networking Group and using it with Hertfordshire Sports Partnerships Active Local on the Jackman's estate. Grants awarded have included £6,000 to Howard Garden Day and Social Care Centre, £4,500 for ops, and £1,500 business development and fundraising support. £3,000 to Norton Methodist Community Hall, and that breaks down as £2,000 operational and £1,000 business planning. And they've Create Network, they've given £4,500 for online and face-to-face resources, £1,800 for online teaching resources and programmes to Letchworth Garden City Samba, £610 for digital equipment for the Talking News, £187 Reading Award, 20 books for Fernhill School, £14,800 to the Letchworth Centre for Healthy Living for business development and online service delivery, £13,900 for teenage counselling to support emotional health as a result of the pandemic to Tile House Counselling. They continue to keep in touch with the food provision groups through the North Herts Food Provision Group. which the meetings are organised by our very own Katie Stadden, and also awarded a grant of 14,280 to Letchworth Food Bank towards their annual operational costs. And finally, whilst they have received grant applications across the year, going into the end of the year, they are likely to have a 35,000 underspend. Awarding grants of 115,000 from a budget that was set at 150,000. Well, we know where to go then. That's it. I couldn't possibly answer any questions, but I'm sure if you wanted to put them through me, I could ask Alistair.
I'm going to exercise chair's privilege, Lee, and ask if we can ask them to report to us if they have a strategy for spending their underspend.
Right.
Because I'm sure the committee would like to hear that. Do I have any hands up? I can't see any, so that's good, because any other questions, of course, you don't have to just put them through to Lee in this meeting. I'm sure the foundation would come back to us with the answers if we did it outside the meeting. Okay, thank you very much. Our last public speaker this evening is Claire Lunnan from the Garden House Hospice. And Claire, we didn't intend to keep you waiting by having you at the end. It's just that we were aware that what you had to share might be quite emotional, and it would be good to give you the full space you needed for that. So thank you for being with us. We're looking forward to hearing.
Hello, I'm Claire. So this year, our normal yearly remembrance service that we offer, obviously we couldn't hold due to the COVID restrictions. So we changed how we wanted, we knew people still wanted to remember their loved ones, probably more so than ever this year. So what we devised was we had on the 22nd of November, a service of remembrance, which was pre-recorded with speakers, people that had lost members of their families in the hospice. We've had people that work at the hospice, and it was all held in our gardens that were beautifully lit up via the funding that we received, and it made our garden look absolutely amazing. I think there might be some pictures coming. It was absolutely stunning. So the service went online from the 22nd November, and we had about over 3,500 views of that service. Then following that, from the 23rd of November until the 29th, we held each evening from around 3:30 to 8 o'clock, 20-minute slots that people pre-booked that they could come in a safe COVID fashion, and they could then come and they could either look at a star that they'd already sent in to us, or they could write a star and hang it in a beautiful sort of tunnel we made that was all lit up, and they would have 20 minutes to spend time. They could have up to bubbles of 6 and spend time and reflect, and then they would leave the tunnel and they could light a candle, and then they could just walk around the garden and lay the candle wherever they wished. Obviously it was a new way of us holding this service, and we really weren't sure how people would take it. They're the stars there that you can see now. It was quite amazing actually. People found it when we'd done a bit of a survey afterwards. We haven't completely completed it, but they sort of said it was a really suitable tribute. It actually exceeded their expectations, and they would 100% prefer this kind of service next year, opposed to what we had been doing previously. In total, we think we had about 800 stars, I should say, hanging in the tunnel, which is an amazing amount. We had about 300 people visit during that week-long slot, and to date we've raised £51,000, which is the most we've ever raised with this kind of service. And I've got a few words from different people that visited I'd like to share with you. These have been emailed to us, and they're just amazing. I mean, somebody wrote, "Seeing the lights come on the main tree was just magical. I know you usually do one big day. However, I love the fact that we were the only ones in the garden, and I could truly appreciate the lights and remember our loved ones without anyone else getting involved or being anyone else's way. I think it should be like this every year." Somebody else wrote, "I brought a friend whose husband died in the hospice some years ago. and thought she'd always support the hospice, but never felt she was able to come to the service. She wandered through with me today and wrote a star and lit a candle. This was a huge barrier broken for her. So, you know, it just really gave them people that time to reflect. And we found that the slots filled up so quickly, we actually had to slot in extra slots. So we were, you know, where we could put people in like for 10 minutes rather than sort of 20 minutes. But we managed to accommodate absolutely everybody that wanted to be accommodated. So, yeah, any questions?
Thank you so much, Claire. That was, as we expected, really moving. I've got actually, very sadly, a couple of friends who took part and came and wrote stars, and both of them absolutely, I hesitate to say loved it, because obviously it's a very sad time, but they felt it was really fitting and helpful. Do I have any? I can't see any raised hands. I can understand why, because I think along with your photographs, your update and explanation was really clear. Yeah. Oh, I think we've got some clapping hands though.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely fabulously conceived and executed in an incredibly difficult year when grief is always a difficult thing. So thank you so much for doing such a good job and for coming to tell us about it this evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. It's quite difficult to move on from that agenda point. I don't think I was the only one who got slightly wet eyes. Again, Claire, you're welcome to stay with the committee if there's anything else you'd like to hear about, but you're also very welcome to say goodnight, because I know you had to wait to be the last speaker. Thanks. Okay, we weren't sure for certain whether or not Letchworth Bid Town Centre Manager was going to be able to join us this evening. It is an incredibly busy time for the bid, so they're not actually, Chris actually isn't with us this evening. They've been really busy. Obviously, it's very difficult trading at all at the moment, and Letchworth Bid have really been doing a lot to support local businesses. But again, if there are any questions, then Lee can direct them to Chris, and I also sit on the bid board for us, so you're welcome to direct questions to me. I probably couldn't answer them on the spot, so you can get back to me after the meeting. That would be great. Lee, I believe now it is your moment to do our grants and community update.
Yes, it'd be my pleasure. It's pretty much as is on the report that was shared beforehand. I did include some photographs of Green Care to show what the money that was given last time has been doing. So they've got their paved areas in now, which of course makes it just more accessible for everybody, really. And what else did I have? I had an update from Imagica Theatre Company. They finished filming their Christmas performance just before the lockdown started in November. So, you know, anyone doubting the apocryphal tale of elves and Father Christmas should book onto the show and see that the magic is real. That's pretty much it for updates there, other than that we've, you know, the community engagement team have been rushed off our feet, doing everything extra and as our normal kind of things, still very much enjoying the Zoom surgeries, and thinking of ways of how we can get the word out to more people to come along. I did actually speak with some residents this week who said, please just email it to us or put a poster up in the town centre, and we're going to have to start thinking about doing that again, because not everyone's on Facebook, really. I think that's it. If there's any questions, please do.
Oh yes, we have a question from Councillor Levitt.
Thank you, Chair. It's under the highways matters bits actually that we have on the report, on Lee's report, but I know you don't often use it. It's actually not a highways as such, but it's a district council thing to do with street lighting. And what I'd like to do is raise the issue of the lighting in Howard Park and Gardens, which has been not working since about last February. Has been raised a number of times with various district councillors, Sue, myself and others, has been reported many times, and it is our responsibility as a district council to sort it. Nothing's happened. There are still no lights working in there. It's very dangerous and very difficult to walk through there at night, or even when even late afternoons now when it's getting dark. And still, some of the kids are still coming home when it's getting dark now. Could we have some form of formal responses? I can't get it through the normal channels, through this committee, as to what is happening with that lighting scheme in that park, and to let the members know, please.
David, given the importance of it and how it's seasonally affected, rather than us asking Lee to take that question away and the committee taking that question away, am I right in thinking that you're asking for an update prior to the next area committee?
Yes, please, Chair.
No problem. Okay, the meeting can record that and it can be followed up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so the last action point, I believe, for the meeting is we need to take a vote on the report's outstanding recommendation 2.4, that the committee be recommended to endorse the actions taken by the community engagement team to promote greater community capacity and wellbeing for Letchworth. Do members wish to debate the recommendation? Do I have any raised hands or questions? No, brilliant. In that case, oh, there is a, sorry, Councillor Aspinwall, you are raising your hand. You're muted and I don't know what this means.
Sorry, I don't, anyway, I can't even explain. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you for all your support through COVID with helping us to engage with the community. You've entirely changed the way that we do that, and I just wanted it put on record really that it's been a monumental effort from all over the world, and I wanted your particular monumental effort just to be put on record, noted, and my thanks, and I'm sure the thanks to the committee expressed to you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Aspinwall. I absolutely think that if we took a vote on that, we would all agree with it. Thank you. Okay, so can I hand over to Anna and ask her to conduct the vote on the outstanding?
Thank you, Chair. Could members please use the green tick for yes, red cross for no, and blue raised hand for abstain? That's unanimous, Chair. Carried.
Thank you very much. The last possible agenda point is for any ward updates. Does anyone here this evening have any sort of ward update to give? Oh, yep, I've got a hand from Councillor Allen.
Just a short one, again, sorry. I live in Wilbury at the moment, and obviously at the moment we have Gary is unwell, and we have been trying to do our best to cover Wilbury area as well. There have been lots of comments about lack of bin emptying. I've been reporting them as and when, but if I could also encourage everyone, as soon as you see a bin that's overflowing, please can you mention it, put it up. Again, massive thank you to the community engagement team. And I've had contact from the Letchworth Men in Sheds group, to do with the Grange related area. They are questioning what is happening with the old bowls club at the back of the Three Horseshoes in Norton, because they feel that would be a perfect place for them to set up. They've been trying to get in touch with, I believe EI is the name of the company, who are running it. I'm trying to find out a little more myself, but yes, if anyone knows about the bowls club at the back of the Three Horseshoes in Norton, please do let me know.
I not only could this meeting ask, but I suspect while it's being run by a company, the ground it's on might be something to do with the Heritage Foundation. So I could probably make inquiries and get them to find you a contact so that you could make contact with them.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you, Councillor.
No problem. Okay, in that case, that brought us to the last order of business. Lee, you have a slight look on your face like we might have missed something. Is there anything else, or can you just not believe that we're going to draw the meeting to a close at 8:45? Because I can't either.
No, yes, in all the excitement, I did miss two very important things.
I'm glad I asked.
Yes,
and that you've got an expressive face, so I knew.
Yes, our Holocaust Memorial Day event will be happening virtually on the 27th of January. I believe I have been spamming all your emails with information on that. So we're doing a poster competition for children of primary school age and a creative writing piece for young people 11 to 18. It's all going to be submitted electronically. Please spread the word and get any children, young people you know involved. They can just submit an application, an entry directly. Hasn't got to go via school or anything. And we've got a full lineup of things happening for that event, which will be wonderful. And the other thing is, of course, the Chair's Volunteer Awards. Nominations are now open. The deadline is the 18th of December, so it's not long now. Again, via the website, you can nominate someone. There are 4 different awards. One of them is a specific COVID related, but again, the categories are there. So I think this year, more than other years, we've had lots of amazing stars across the community who deserve some recognition. Letchworth Heritage Foundation are also doing some volunteer awards, but that just means twice the amount of people get to be celebrated, I think. So yeah, information on our website, and I will be sending you more emails. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee. So before I close the meeting, I just also wanted to say an extra thank you to Matt, who I think was doing his first shift as our IT support this evening, which was probably a bit nerve-wracking, and everything went off absolutely perfectly. So thank you very much for that, Matt, but also obviously to Anna and to Lee, who kept the meeting running incredibly smoothly. Thanks very much. Then I would like to